Check 1, 2, 3. Michael Baumgartner. 1, 2, 3. All right, who's first? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. My name is Connor McAvoy with Crime News. My first question I wanted to ask you, given that we just wrapped up this town hall, how do you think it went?
I think it went really well. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was our 7th town hall. You know, I feel strongly that people have the right to have their voices heard. You know, obviously there are a lot of interruptions, a lot of rude behavior, and you know, I knew I'd be walking into a room with about 99% of the folks that hadn't voted for me, and there was. I think the way the tickets were distributed, which was just fine. I mean, I appreciate Whitworth holding this event, but you know, I knew it would be like this. But you know, those folks have the right to express their opinion as well too, and so it's good they got to do that. You know, as I said in the room, you know, look, I'm a conservative Republican in the state of Washington, and a lot of things don't go my way, and I wish our elected leaders in Olympia, or I wish our U.S. senators would do town halls and allow folks with, you know, my political views to have that same kind of engagement. They don't, but we're going to try to do it as long as we can have safe areas. It wasn't particularly civil today, but as long as we can have safe engagement, we'll always do town halls.
And then one quick follow-up I wanted to ask when it comes to that. I know some Republican politicians have expressed some disinterest in in-person town halls. Has tonight, or maybe the town hall in Britsville earlier today, deterred that your stance as far as having in-person town halls?
As long as it can be safe. There's some kind of scary stuff out there with folks right now with elected officials, so those are real concerns, and you know, that'll be the major ingredient. And I think, you know, quite frankly, we'll be doing probably our next town hall will probably be a telephone town hall. And while we had really good, you know, engagement this morning, there wasn't the degree of interruptions there were tonight. So that does make it tough to get everything out. But you know, the main value that I provided here was just to have those folks have an opportunity to hear their voices, have their voices heard, and I was happy to do that.
Sorry, Alex with the spokesman. So you talked about Greenland. You said you supported the claiming of Greenland, but
as long as it was peaceful.
Right. But you also talked about Canada, and I just want to know, like, is your line for claiming and annexing territory really solely based on the partisan leaning of that foreign territory or that state, because you're, you know, supporting Greenland, Panama, like, but your reason for not supporting Canada is that they're entirely liberal, so...
No, I don't want to... Canada's been a good neighbor. I don't want us taking over Canada.
Right, but I'm saying you said something about how, like, oh, if we were to claim them as...
Well, I was having a little fun with the crowd. I mean, one, their political politics are... That's a serious issue. Their politics are quite different than us, but also all those folks in the crowd, their ideas would have a lot better chance of becoming law if actually Canada was part of the U.S.
So how claiming Greenland, how would that not be the return of Imperial America? We've seen this in history, so why would that be a good thing?
Well, I think it would be America's strategic benefit if we had Greenland. America has had strategic benefit from being imperialistic in the past. That's how we had Western expansion.
That's also how we had white nationalism. So, I mean, how would you...
Is that really your question, the spokesman?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, it just Imperial America.
You're weaving white nationalism.
No, I'm
question about Greenland.
No, I'm just saying, like, typically claiming other territories.
So you know, I don't want us taking over Canada. If we were able to, if the people of Greenland wanted to join the United States, I think it would be in our benefit.
Sir,
yeah.
You spoke several times about former President Biden unilaterally deciding to cut student debt, to relieve student debt. How do you contrast your opposition to that unilateral decision to President Trump's unilateral decision to cut off funding for programs that USAID offered that were approved by Congress?
Well, again, I want Congress involved in both those decisions. I was pointing out to the crowd that all presidents have done that. USAID is a little different, that it is a national security issue, and as the commander-in-chief, the executive likely has more leeway there. But again, those things aren't actually cuts until they come back to Congress and they get rebudgeted. In that sense, but it's a different issue. And my guess is that, again, given that was a 99% far left crowd, probably none of them were outraged when President Biden was taking unilateral action. So just point that out for the irony and some of the hypocrisy, but just also a learning issue there for the civics of it.
Hi, I'm HQ. I think, as you said, there were a lot of interruptions tonight, and something that we all heard a lot was answer the question. What would be kind of your response to the crowd now, not having them having that back and forth with you about just answering the questions and kind of trying to get your voice out there a little bit with all the interruption?
Well, I mean, it was fine. We expected it. I mean, a lot of those questions weren't sincere questions where they actually wanted to hear my ideas or my position on it. It was they wanted to make a political statement and then show that they disagreed. But again, look, I won my election we just came off an election. I mean, I've only been a member of Congress for less than 3 months. I got a near record amount of the vote with 61%. I mean, even President Trump won the 5th Congressional District by a significant margin. So what Republicans are doing in Congress is very popular in Eastern Washington. It's not particularly popular with this group, and I understand that's one of the reasons why we came tonight. But no, it's a good exchange, and they have the right to disagree, and we have the right to agree to disagree. So that's part of the process.
And a follow-up question with that, sorry. Is that going to change the way that you conduct town halls in the future when they are in-person town halls? Are there going to be maybe stricter guidelines on when people are allowed to talk and ask their questions?
No, I mean, I don't mind it that much overall. I mean, I mean, those aren't really questions; they're more statements, and that's fine. I mean, we get there's a lot of ways to get in touch with your member of Congress. I mean, we get emails, people visit the office, people come, and people respond on social media. So, none of this stuff is new or unique to what happened, here tonight. This was just a good expression of free speech and disagreements on policy issues.
Marissa with KXLY. These town halls, as we can talk about how short they are, so you can hear both sides. Now that you've heard a room full, quite a bit of people that are in disagreement with you, do you plan on moving differently moving forward, or what is the goal from these town halls after you hear people that are calling for some more action?
Well, I'm not even sure how much they disagree with me. I think a lot of the folks don't understand what the difference between the executive branch and the House. I mean, the legislative branch, we pass laws. That's usually when we do town halls. So just on the other ones, I usually do a civics presentation at the start, just the basics, the differences in 3 branches of government, how actually a bill becomes a law. I mean, to get a bill into a law, you have to have 218 votes in the House, 60 votes in the Senate, and I usually explain to folks how the filibuster works and whether that's good or bad, and then how things like budget reconciliation works. So that was the only unfortunate, it was the only change that we did from the other town halls here tonight, because I just knew with this crowd that they weren't going to sit there. They weren't particularly interested in hearing that stuff and being educated on that. So that would make the town halls better if folks actually understood, what they would do. But by and large, obviously the far left in our community is upset that President Trump won the election. They were upset that I won the election, and this was a forum for to share that disagreement.
Was there anything that you learned from the people here today that made you think differently?
Well, I think they have some heartfelt concern, but I think we share a lot of concern, and you certainly learn every time you engage with folks. But there weren't particularly any of the policy issues here that were new or unique or fresh.
Congressman Eric Escher, Crime News. I have 2 questions. First, you just mentioned that, civics, normally when you have a town hall, you like to give a civics lesson. Do you feel confident that with President Trump basically putting a target on the Department of Education, that eliminating the Department of Education will result in a better civics education for our young students?
Well, I want, as I said at the start of my presentation, and I was being consistent on this, education should be as local as possible. Communities, parents and communities make better decisions on education. So there's going to be education dollars flowing, but I would like them to go straight to communities rather than go through a federal bureaucracy. And no, I don't think the Department of Education has much to do at all about civics on the national level.
So a follow-up to that, would you say that you're okay with different states teaching different things about civics?
Well, I'm okay with education being local with all issues. It needs to be up to their individual states what they teach. Yeah.
So you would be opposed to a national standard of what students are being taught about civics?
I haven't thought deeply about it, but in general, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question.
Okay. We're going to come back to you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Not exactly on the same civics front, but you mentioned you'd be willing to give a civics course on the budget reconciliation. You also mentioned that there aren't going to be any cuts to Medicaid, just maybe slowing down of the expansion of that. Can you walk me through where does that $880 billion come from, if not Medicaid, if we're not touching Medicare?
Yeah, so when we were in Olympia, we always call it Olympia math, where there would be, kitchen table math is when you spend $100 on your grocery bill next year you spend $110, and that's a $10 increase. Olympia math or government math is you spend $100 today. There's a program that says next year you're going to spend $130, but actually hasn't been budgeted yet. You spend $110, so you actually increased to $10, but now but some people say that's a $20 reduction. On Medicaid is a broken and strange system. The federal government allows individual states to game the federal government on reimbursement rates. And so states like Washington that expanded Medicaid under Obamacare get higher and stranger reimbursement rates than states like Ohio and Wisconsin and Texas. I don't know in reconciliation, I'm not on the budget committee, I don't think we will get to the point where we look at doing what would be called block grants or just uniform spending and treating everybody the same on Medicaid, but I think we will do some work requirements. And so you would have folks that are on Medicaid that are able-bodied have to be able to go to work, and because there will be some of those folks who won't be on Medicaid, you would see a reduction in Medicaid spending. Okay. Who are we not going to? How about you?
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm with the Whitworthy Institute of Music.
Yeah, all right, let's hear from you first.
How would
We
you
might spend 2 or 3 questions on you. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'll take them all. How would you recommend?
We're going to go for about 5 more minutes, guys.
How would you recommend students engage in free speech going forward?
I mean, earnestly and peacefully, and respecting differences of opinions. I think a lot of times when you're a college student, it's natural when you're your age, you think that you may have all the answers on an issue, and the longer I'm in government, the more there are shades of gray and things that you have to learn about. So I think being open to the idea that you could be wrong is important for college students, and that the world is not black and white. But it's normal, it's good, it's healthy. I mean, I was the same way when I was in my early 20s. I mean, it's one of the reasons I went to Africa to do that volunteer work. You have this sense you want to go out and make the world a better place, and and free speech can be a part of that. I think but doing it respectfully is important. I also think we didn't have social media, and there is a certain, on all sides of the political spectrum, a certain unfortunate reward for being bombastic or super sarcastic or ironic on social media, and I don't think that's good for free speech. I think that's corrosive. Now, do you have a follow-up?
I have another question.
Yeah, please.
So students are scared.
Thanks for asking such a respectful and earnest, honest question as well, too.
Of course. Okay, so students are scared for a number of reasons, whether that be immigration, climate change, all of those issues. What do you have to say to these students, especially seniors who are graduating, as they enter the working world and into this politically charged society?
Well, things are going to be all right. America's a fantastic republic. It's up to us to make it what it's going to be, but I'm very optimistic about the future, of the country. We got good people working on these problems. They're solvable. There's nothing that's wrong about America. It can't be solved what's right about America, so they should be optimistic and encouraged rather than worried. There's too much anxiety. Have you read, Jonathan Haidt's book on anxiety, Generation Anxiety? Like high school and college kids, they worry too much.
Okay, so how would you recommend that they go into these situations where there's politically charged conversations?
Well, I mean, like I said before, where they should go in with an earnest heart that they could be wrong, seek to learn, don't have all the answers, find good people, high character, and get experience with them, and then engage in engage in their country. I mean, I would encourage all college students to look at doing some kind of public service. Whether the best would be serving with the military. But AmeriCorps is a wonderful program. Peace Corps is a wonderful program. I'm Catholic, so I did work with the Jesuits, but doing something bigger than yourself is a really good way to get started in public policy as well, too.
And that should help students help navigate this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because you'll be able to doing something bigger than yourself builds a sense of gratitude. It makes you contribute to your society, and then you see there's a bigger, wider world out there. They should also do study abroad. All students should spend time overseas because you'll better respect and appreciate the values of America and the freedoms that we have. It's pretty unique and precious what our republic is. So doing study abroad would really help as well.
Congressman,
Okay, who's not asked a question yet? You, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I want to thank your office, your local office, for responding in a timely manner to our questions. So thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys, a couple more. Yeah.
So Michael from KHQ. Real quick, online, a lot of people have been complaining about, trying to communicate with your office and having difficulty. And today, there are people expressing a lot of frustrations and almost feeling like they're alienated. So what do you say to your constituents who you don't agree with politically and feel like they have a disconnect between communicating with you and because you're their voice?
Well, again, I've done more town halls than any other member of Congress. We just did 7 in my first 75 days. My staff is working exceptionally hard. We're meeting with people regularly, so I think we're doing a fantastic job. Just because doesn't mean that we agree with you. Again, it is the most left-wing and radical fringe of Eastern Washington that we tend to hear from that's very upset about what the president is doing. And that's okay. They can make their thoughts heard. But again, we're 75 days into this. We've got a nearly record amount of the vote, and we're doing exactly what I said I was going to do on the campaign trail. So I'm very pleased. I thought we got off a great start, and being as accessible as we're being right now is part of the job. I'm very proud of it.
And
So what about
follow
Doge?
up? But that's part of the question people are asking is they feel alienated because you keep saying 61% of people voted for you, but what about that remaining 39% who feel like they don't have a voice?
Well, we just heard from them tonight. I mean, doesn't mean I'm going to change what I said I was going to do on the campaign because they're upset that President Trump won the election.
Do you consider them your constituents?
Of course. I mean, that's what I said. Is I work for everybody in Eastern Washington, whether they're one of the 61% that voted for me or the 39%. We've said that consistently, you know, and they all have value. They all have opinions, and you know, that's not a complete monolith out there. You know, for example, the lady that talked about clean energy. You know, we have some agreement there on hydropower and producing nuclear power, so we'll have some agreement. And that's how policy works. You know, I came out of 8 years in the state Senate, where I came into the state Senate in the minority as a Republican. We built a bipartisan coalition, and a bipartisan coalition took the majority in the Senate, but we never had the House, we never had the governor. So every bill I ever passed has had Democrat votes on it. And even in the nation's capital, you know, if we had done the civics piece of this, like in the other town halls, you would have seen that it takes 60 votes to get something out of the Senate on everything except budget reconciliation. There's only 53 Republicans. So almost everything that's going to happen in Washington, D.C. is going to be bipartisan as well, too, in terms of the things that I'm involved with it. So there's much more agreement on those things than there is disagreement. Okay, one more.
We have a fairly large Ukrainian population here in Eastern Washington, Spokane particularly, that feel threatened by the Trump administration and government's proposals. You're meeting with them tomorrow. What do you hope to learn from them, or what is your message to them that feel threatened right now?
Well, I have very strong connections to the Ukrainian population. I've gone to religious services with them. There's been prominent Ukrainian community leaders that have been very involved in my campaign. That's an ongoing discussion. They know I've been consistent that we don't want Russia to be successful in Ukraine. We can have some differences of agreement with the Ukrainian government, but for those folks, I've been very supportive of the Ukrainian refugee community and will continue to be. So we'll have a good conversation tomorrow night, and I think we'll reassure some of their concerns. But all right, guys, I got 5 kids. I'm going home to
Are you
say goodnight
having an
to.
override of the Keep Washington Working Act? You mentioned that with law enforcement and federal agencies, and I'm just wondering if you could clarify that.
So I've got 5 kids at home too, and I'd like to get to them as well, but can we talk about Doge since it was the top concern on the poll on the screen tonight?
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody coming.